Hi, this is Father Gary Cato with Project SOS, and I'm very proud to sponsor this episode of Salute. We hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Bob Peters, host of Central Florida's Salute YouTube, and I'm here at Okahumpka with Tony Figueroa.
Correct.
United States Marine, Korea and Vietnam.
Certainly.
And I met you several years ago, but I lost contact with you. But thanks to a mutual friend of ours, Mr. George Wanberg, who's always on TV, he got us back together again. So it's great to see you. It's great to see you. Tony, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from New York City.
I could never tell.
And I enlisted in the Marine Corps at a very early age.
How young were you?
I was 16.
16?
Yes.
Wow.
I slipped in there underneath the crack, 1948.
How'd you do that? Did you sign, or have your parents sign?
It's a well-known secret. And if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a guy, his name is Al, wrote a book about the underage military veterans, and because they were afraid that they were going to lose their benefits if it was exposed, but it didn't happen. So, but I'm proud of you, 16 years old. Wow.
Yes, went in the Marine Corps at 16, stayed in the Marine Corps for 22 years, retired in 1970. This July will be 51 years I've been retired.
Wow.
Been collecting benefits for 51 years.
So you went in at 16, so you didn't finish high school?
No, I did my high school after I got out of the Marine Corps, and then I did a little bit of college.
Oh, what'd you go to college for?
Yeah. I went to the police academy. I was in law enforcement.
Oh, well, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So 16 years old, you joined the Marine Corps.
Certainly.
And did you go off to Paris Island? Or was that there when you were in?
Oh, yeah. Paris Island, this has been there since 1917. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that goes way back.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have the railroad spikes out of a when it come down the train. All the recruits at that time come down by train, and they ended up going by bus over to Paris Island. But the train ride down is the famous. But the train didn't no longer exist, so they took it out. And there was a woman up there who does artistic work. She dug up all the railroad tracks and all the spikes, and she put them out, and she welded them together to make USMC. Oh. And I now have one sitting above in my kitchen, USMC, railroad spikes, that thousands upon thousands and thousands of Marines had rode over.
Wow. That's quite a story in itself. So, what made you go in the Marines? Why did you go to the Marines at 16? Just wanted to go?
Well, you got to understand this, Bob. I'm a product of the Second World War. By meaning the Second World War sprung up me at a very early age.
Yeah.
I mean, I understood what was going on. I was a preteen. So all the fighting going on, I mean, actually, I remember when Pearl Harbor happened, I couldn't believe it. I started to cry.
Yeah.
You know, and then when the Philippines fell, and I seen the picture when the Japanese were kicking the American flag up, and just drew, here I was, 12-year-old youngster up there, and I was just traumatized, so to speak, and I seen that. So the services, all the service, the Army, the Navy, and everything else, the Marine Corps stuck out most in what their deeds were. Guadalcanal was the key point. When the first landing in the Guadalcanal was the first strike back at the war at Guadalcanal, I said I want to be a Marine. And by God, I worked at it. I was going to be a Marine one way or the other.
Marine, let me tell you, fella.
Yeah.
So you went in at 16. And you went to Paris Island. Then how long, where did you go after that? Because you said, you 27 years? How many years?
22 years.
22 years.
22 years. I went up to the Camp Lejeune, 2nd Marines, up there. And we trained up there with the Viegas, at one point. I remember that. And then I went TAD up to Virginia. We were demonstration troops up there. We were at TAD. We would come off landing barges. The academy would bring the academy people down, and we would demonstrate landing on the beach. And then from there, in 1950, that's when when the war broke out, we got called back. And I was now a corporal, and my outfit, most of it got torn down and dispersed, and most of them went to California. We were just coming back from Virginia, and I was transferred over to the 2nd Tank Battalion, waiting for orders, and I was a corporal. And for some strange reason, they needed 47 NCOs right now to go to Parris Island. And from corporals up to master sergeants. And it was 47 of us that got on that bus, and we drove from Camp Lejeune all the way down to Parris Island. And we got out there, I had my sea bag, and I had a suitcase, and I remember getting out there, and they told me to report over to where the 2nd Battalion was at. And they had what they called field sergeant majors at the time. And I walked in the offices, and I said, Sergeant Major, I says, I'm reporting for duty. And he says, put your luggage on down there, get down and pick up a platoon.
They're that quick, huh?
I looked up, Sergeant Major, there's a platoon down there waiting for you. Go pick them up down to receiving right now. They were coming in so fast that they had actually 5 battalions, recruit battalions. By the time in 1951, or beginning of 52, and I tell people this and they don't believe it, we had 8 recruit battalions on Parris Island. 8 battalions, recruit battalions. And they said, where did they put them all? I said, they put them all over the place. My bivouac area was right on the parade field, on a tent. And the others were out there in the range and all that. But at one time, it only lasted a year for the 8 battalions, and they reduced it down to the 5th Battalion, which was I was in the 5th Battalion. And when things started to smooth out, I was transferred over to the 1st Battalion. But that's how many recruits we got during the 1950. Of course, they were drafting also, and they were bringing in recruits by the trainloads and coming down day and night, just day and night. It was a hectic, and I'm telling you, it was a swamping field scene. To see the parade field with tents on it, but that was designated the 5th Battalion. 2nd and the 1st Battalion and the 2nd Battalion remained, of course, the 3rd Battalion. Now the 3rd Battalion. Now, right now, 3rd Battalion is a recruit battalion, a male recruit battalion. Back in those days, the 3rd Battalion was a female battalion. And but now it's a 3rd Battalion right now on Parris Island is a male battalion. And they have the 3 battalions down there, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Yep, so I did that, and then until I got orders, and I went to Korea in 52. I made sergeant. I was a squad leader. I was with HAL 3-1. And when I got there, 1st Marine Regiment was in the Corps Reserve, and we were up there behind somewhere near the DMZ, up there where the bridge was at. And when they started to change around, we had to go back up on the lines. We spent about a month and a half in reserve, having a good time, drinking beer. That's all we did. You can't do much training. We did a little bit of training, but in Corps Reserve, just relaxation. But when they're going to bring you back up the lines, we went back up the lines, and we were in that fiasco. When we got up there on the line up there, when they got moved up, the Army had the Turks, and the Army units were in that sector right over there, and they already moved out. And now the 5th Marines and the 1st Marines were moving up in the position and taking over. We were on the hook, way over to the right side. And that, to this day, puzzles me. The hook was several miles over the DMZ line. And I don't know why the Chinese sacrificed all those people to get it back, because they were going to get it anyway.
So the hook is a territory? Or?
Well, it's a mountainous, ridges of mountains, the hook. These are a series of mountains and outposts.
Okay.
These are outposts. Yeah. But anyway, we're on the hook, and that's where I got my Bronze Star, and I got my first Purple Heart there. When we got there, the company moved up to the hook, to the called the left flank, and for some strange reason, since I was in the 3rd squad, the 3rd platoon, I wound up on a hill next to the hook called Hill 10. I'm sorry, 110. And we were on 110, and we relieved those people down there, and I was on the bottom side of it, of that, and I had my whole squad. But when we got there, because now the Chinese were, and the North Koreans probably was showing us, there was no North Koreans, they were all Chinese. They were mortaring, sending the 76s on top of us. And flares were going up, and it was night and everything else by the time I got up to Hill 110. And we relieved some of the part of the 5th Marine people. When I got there, I'll never forget this as long as I live. When I got there, and we got up there, and the captain was there, and he says, Sergeant, he says, you're going to relieve part of the men down in the 5th Marine. I remember this one Marine coming up, and his flak jacket was open. He's all up there. He's, He says, they're in the trenches. They're in the trenches. So he says, okay. He says, you're going to have to get down here. So he says, Sergeant, you go with this guide over there. He'll take you down there. Just see what you can do. I looked at him, and I looked at, they're in the trenches. So the first thing I turned around to my squad, I says, fix bayonets. You know, fix bayonets. And everybody look, fix bayonets. I said, yeah, if you're going to be that close, we're going to be sticking people instead of shooting them.
Yeah.
So everybody fixed bayonets, but when we got down there, no Chinese, they didn't come in. So we got into the bunkers down there. Then later on, the next night, that was a different story. Well, anyway, the Bronze Star.
Yeah, this is right here.
There you have there.
The Bronze Star and
the Purple Heart. I got four Purple Hearts there.
Wow.
How I got the Bronze Star was, it was kind of just, it's a strange way. After the fighting, I mean, there's a lot of fighting going on the hilltop. I remember when the flares were going up, and I could see the Chinese assaulting. And when I see them, I couldn't believe it. Just looked like they were climbing over each other. And I noticed some of them weren't even carrying weapons.
You know,
they were just charging the top. But the other thing I seen, and then I finally figured out what the heck it was. Nobody told me. Well, we figured it out. But I kept seeing this white box that they had at the end of a pole. But it was wrapped in some kind of white linen. And this is the wrangle, what you call the charges, in other words, the bunker breakers. They would go up there and pull it, and this would cave in the bunker, would charge up there. Then the first thing I thought is, why would they paint them white? Because they could see them. But the reason Chinese painted them white, if that man was shot down, another soldier would pick that same thing up because he knew what it was.
Yeah.
So at dark, everything is dark. You can't tell if it's camouflage or anything else. So that's why they painted them, not painted them white, but had white cloth wrapped around them. But these charges was a big charge. They would knock in the whole bunker. They put it up against the bunker when they charged them. They caved the bunker in on top of us. That's when I found out my platoon commander and the 2 squads who were with him up there, they got overrun. He was killed, and 4 of those the squad people were killed in that attack that night. We managed to keep the Chinese office. What I had my squad do is that we took grenades. And I says, instead of throwing grenades down at them, he says, I want you to take them like a baseball, pull the pin, let the spoon go, reach back, and flip it straight up in the air. And the reason I did that is because we were on a bluff. Over there, it was just like this down over there. And that grenade would come on down and explode midway. I didn't want to hit something on the ground that had mostly absorbed on the ground. I wanted air burst. And that's what I got, air burst. Probably saved us from getting Chinese off our backs doing air burst up there. Now, the Bronze Stars, there was nothing but when dawn came out, there was nothing but Chinese were already killed. There was nothing but dead people all over the place. It was hectic. They were in the trenches. Now, remember I said I was in a separate hill. There was like a narrow area that goes up to both hills, up there, straight up, an area. Now, they've been there since 1951. So obviously they mined it.
Oh, yeah.
They put mines in it. These are the A3 mines they put in there, that types of mines they put in there, all the A3 mines in there. So my platoon sergeant, he managed to come over to me to check on me, and he got over there. And by the way, my platoon sergeant was one of my assistant drill instructors on Paris Island. Now, the roles are reversed. I'm now working for him. He was working for me. So anyway, he came over, and it was kind of quiet and eerie. And then we heard some gunshots coming from the other side. I could see where the trench ended, and it was kind of misty because there was a little fog coming up there. And then I could hear some yelling. And we didn't know who the yelling was on. We didn't know it was Chinese. We knew the Chinese had got into some of the bunkers and locked themselves in there, because that's what they did. When they got into the trenches, they got into the bunkers and sealed themselves in there until they got further orders. That was their orders. So we waited there, and we kept hearing this, and all of a sudden, I could see this person jump up, and he had a revolver in his hand. I don't know where he got this revolver in his hand. I mean, everything else, everybody had 45s, you know. This guy gets up, and he has a revolver in his hand, and he turns around, and he looks up and down, and he comes, and I waved to him, you know, we're over here, because he figured, you know, they were rolling. And he looked, and he got startled, and he recognized I was a Marine. So all of a sudden he says, there's somebody over here, and he yelled at somebody behind him. And he jumped down, and he ran across. There's a little bit of water down there because of the moisture and stuff like that. He come running across into the trench, and before he did it, he started firing the shots from his gun and ran past me up to the side of the hill up there. Another Marine came out, and then what happened now is they brought out some of our people that I recognized from the machine gun platoon, and they were carrying them on a stretcher, and they were bringing them out. And these guys were dragging themselves, and they couldn't get, trenches were very narrow at that time. You can't get a stretcher to the trench. Yeah. So they were trying to get them out there, and it was one of our Marines from the company that had a gut shot wound. And they had to get him up there. So I guess, you know, I said to my buddy there, I says, well, I'm going to take a chance, go out there and go get that stretcher. We'll get it up there. He says, we can't get through the trench enough. He says, the only way you're going to get to go straight up the hill.
Run with it.
He says, you know what's on that hill? Let's take a chance. Took a chance. Apparently, I didn't hit any of the mines going up there. Now, early in the story, they said these positions were taken over in 52, 51, 51, 52. This is 53 now. So in my mind, I figured it out. The temperature in the wintertime in Korea is freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is harder than concrete. You can't dig in it. It's impossible. The summertime, it is hot as blue blazes. Now what you got is now, you got hot, cold, hot, cold. Now these mines are just material. They probably all went dormant when all that weather, and they were there 2 years. So that's probably why I never set off one of those mines. So
You weren't thinking about that.
well, we just decided to go up there, and we just dragged them up, and we took it stretcher, and we got shot at a couple of times going up there. We just kept going and just kept going. I mean, I was out of wind, trying to keep the stretcher level, but we were going uphill. We were going vertically and keeping the stretcher. And I know he was in tremendous pain, and trying to keep him comfortable as possible, trying to get up there. We got up to the top of the hill. They had a helicopter, one of those helicopters where they strapped him to the side of the helicopter and got him in there. But I thought he was going to die on the way up there, but they said no, he lived. He stayed alive.
Good.
But being gut shot, I didn't think he'd make it up there. But we got there. Later on, when some ceremony, all of a sudden I was called out. The same bloody day that Marilyn Monroe shows up for the USO show. I can't go. I got to get this medal on me. I says, keep the medal. I want to see Marilyn Monroe. No, you're going to get the medal. Yeah, that's a true story, my folks.
Let me ask you, I got a picture here, Tony.
That's Vietnam. Yeah.
This is Vietnam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we'll show this a little bit later.
Yeah.
So you, that's when you got the Silver Star?
Bronze Star.
Bronze Star.
Bronze Star, the Combat V. Yeah.
Okay. And how long were you in Korea there?
I spent the 13 months there. Yeah.
Wow, you saw a lot then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about, I've talked to several veterans, Korean veterans, about the frozen chosen reservoir and the frostbite. My uncle was with the Army, and he lost all his toes and everything because of a lot of frostbite. Do you have any problem with the frostbite?
Well, you got to understand the dynamics of the Korean War changed very rapidly. It started out as a defensive, Pusan defensive, and then all of a sudden MacArthur got there, it became an offensive. Now we started to chase them, and they brought us on down. Now it was defensive. So now we went back into the First World War trench lines. Now I know what my uncle went through in the First World War. We were in trenches. I says, boy, it is not a nice thing to do, to go in trench. It is nasty. It is very nasty. Living in the bunkers and in the trenches out there, and day by day, you get mud, and you're infested with rats and stuff like that. So it was a defensive position that we fought in. So frostbite in the wintertime, if you're in the front, you had what they call the Mickey Mouse boots then. So we weren't offensive, and of course, being in the defensive position, you stayed pretty well warm. But when they had them chosen reservoir, when the guys had coming down, and they had some had the Mickey Mouse boots on, the problem was you only could walk so far because even though it's freezing cold outside, you start to sweat inside those boots.
Oh, really?
And they freeze, and then once you stop, they'll freeze up again, So there was a problem there. But they did save the toes, so we all had Mickey Mouse boots, and we wore them, but only wore them, when in a defensive position. Yeah.
So you were there for like 13 months, you said?
Mm-hmm. And then I got transferred again. I went over there because I had an MOS. At that time, a drill instructor did not really exist, but they had to put down something on your record book that the type of duty you did when you went TAD. You had to have a number. So 4961 was actually drill instructor. Now it's 8511. It's a drill instructor level. But back in those days, it was 4961. And that was called training and training aids man. That's all it was. It didn't say DI, it says training and training aids man. So when I was back in the company over there, they were in the war was over. The 1st Marine Division was in the training posture. So they needed a training aids man to go to the range and open up the range. I became the NCO, it is Ghost Range. and I mean a ghost range. They had this range over near where the 11th Marines were at. I was assigned to the 11th Marines, and I was the NCO IC in charge of the range. And now, once in a while, we get a couple of people come down and shoot. But the Marine Corps team came down one time to shoot. Sometimes, but very rarely the range. But they wanted to keep the range, and I was the NCO in charge of the range. That was maybe the last 3 months of my career, and then I came back to the States. That was only 3 months of it that I stayed out there.
Yeah. So you came back to the States now. When you came back to the States, how long were you in the States? I mean, Korea ended like what, 53, 54?
53.
53, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Vietnam, well, we had advisors going in the 50s, which nobody really wanted to talk about under Eisenhower. And they were not, but the actual war started heating up.
So you want to know what, after I came back to where I wound up?
Yeah, what happened after Korea?
Whoa, you won't believe this one.
Uh-oh.
Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Oh, okay.
Hey, okay, Brooklyn Navy Yard. Wow, that was an eye-opener.
That was a tough place.
Exactly. Reported into Brooklyn Navy Yard, and because Brooklyn Navy Yard was built in 1881. I'm sorry, 1881. So it was built with the old-fashioned Gothic. They had actually carriage gate. Carriage gate. It was the main gate when it came through. Carriage gate had the pillars and the whole thing. When actually horse and carriage used to come through now, because we didn't have horse and carriage, and it was cobble streets on Sand Street. Cobbles. They still had cobble streets then. There. So I reported in, went in there, reported in, and then and I went on leave. Just took leave from there, but that was my duty station. So I reported in. I remember the first night I reported in. Heard 5 shots being fired at night. Bang, 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 bang. I said, what the hell was that? So I was sleeping up there in the sergeant's quarters. And I come down, they said, oh, and everything else. And then they come out and they told me the story. The sergeant on the main gate was a Korean, and I remember seeing the sergeant on the main gate. He already had 3 stars on his Purple Heart. And I remember coming through the main gate. And what had happened was, because the main gate is such a level, it's high up there, they had this anchor chain going across. And they would have to take this anchor chain, let it down, and come across. What had happened now, there was a Navy commander that went on liberty in New York City. He got drunk, and he ran out of money. So he convinced his cab driver to drive him down to Brooklyn Navy Yard so he can go back to his ship to get some more money. Cab says, okay. So, for some reason, the cab driver and the commander tells him, drive straight on through. Now, they didn't put the chain up, but he drove straight through the carriage gate. Now, they have an internal police department on Brooklyn Navy Yard, and the Marines are the external, So they call up and says, there's a cab driver running around down there, get him out, he's unauthorized and everything else, Now, so cab driver now, and the commander, he gets his money. Gets back in, he says, let's go. He's still stoned. That cab driver goes out, and he goes out the gate. And that kind of peeved off that sergeant. Because when that cab went through, he come out and went pow, 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 pow. And he shot that cab up the back of it. And I remember there's cobblestones up there. And I remember seeing the curves up there in Brooklyn on Sand Street. They were actually really high curves. Well, what happened was the cab went up there, hit that curb, and come up, and there was upside down, 4 wheels spinning, they were telling me, and he had put 5 rounds in the back of that cab. He shook up the cab driver. He come, Nobody was hit with any of the gunfire.
Thank goodness.
And the cab driver and the commander were all right, didn't get hurt or nothing like that, but scared the hell out of them. So that sergeant popped up the rounds. But it didn't end there because Brooklyn Navy Yard, they had incidents of shooting all the time. There's all kinds of crazy things that went on. I seen more combat in Brooklyn Navy Yard than I did see in Korea.
So after the Brooklyn Navy Yard, you
Well, I did my
going to
tour.
Vietnam?
No, I went back. What happened from there? Now, Brooklyn Navy Yard, I spent a full tour there, and then got orders to. Well, I took over actually with Brooklyn Navy Yard. I was in Brooklyn Navy Yard, and I went over to the annex over at Bayonne. I took over the guard detachment at Bayonne. That's another story in itself. It didn't take too long. It got to be insane too. But anyway,
This may be a 5-part show, you know.
Yeah, I know it. So after that, I got orders to go back to the division. I went to the 2nd Marine Division, and I went to the 8th Marines. I'm sorry, 2nd Marines, and we're in the 2nd Marines. And then what happened was we were all 2nd Marines was all dissolved. And we all went in the 8th Marines. I was in the 8th Marines up there, and I did a tour. I did a tour in Viegas and in Mediterranean, and I did all kinds of stuff. Then I got transferred to base. I became an instructor at base. I was over at the Camp Geiger, and I spent the tour of duty in there at Camp Geiger as instructor. I was a senior instructor for close combat in the build-up area, and so with all the recruits coming in, they had to go through the stages of ITR, Infantry Training Regiment. So that's what I did for a few years. Then I got orders, and then I got a strange set of orders that nobody knew. But again, I was selected. I don't know why they were picking on me. I hate calling it Marine Corps. But now I got a set of orders not to go to Okinawa, because I expect to go to Okinawa. You got orders for Iceland. I said, Iceland? I said, the Marines left Iceland in 1942. I said, did they forget somebody?
You go back and get something, right?
They said, you got orders for life in Keflavik, Iceland. I said, so anyway, I looked around and asked anybody who had been to Iceland, anybody at duty station. Well, come to find out, when we got to we had to go to Philadelphia Navy Yard to catch a flight. I mean, we had been flying up there to Nova Scotia and over into Iceland, and we got to Reykjavik. And we got to Reykjavik, they transferred us on down to Keflavik. Got to Keflavik, we found out that the Navy has relieved the Air Force. They had an Air Force base up in Iceland all those years up there. And now the Navy has taken over the base, and by requirement now, when the Navy takes over a base, they have Marine security. Mm-hmm. That's a natural. So I was part of the Marine Corps Marine Security Group force up there. Now, when I was in Brooklyn Navy Yard, I forgot to tell you, I was over at the prison. I was one of the commander of the guards. So now I picked up another strange MOS. These MOS are going to haunt you. So I get to Iceland, I says, what's my job going to be up in Iceland? Guess what it's going to be? Brig warden. I'm going to run the brig. So we go over to see what the Air Force had for a brig. It wasn't much but a Quonset hut. And because, you know, their requirements for a brig and requirements for a Marine brig are completely two different things, believe me.
Well, how much trouble could you get in Iceland, right? I mean, you know.
Well,
there wasn't much going on, was there?
Well.
Oh, you got into it a little bit, huh?
Well, they could get in trouble. But the problem with Iceland became a political thing over there. The Icelandic government was the one who requested being over there. There's a history of military being in Iceland. You got to understand what the Icelandics went through. The Brits had always defended where Iceland was at and had troops in the Iceland. Mm-hmm. When the war broke out, Roosevelt in order to relieve the troops, the British troops, to go back to England over there. He sent the Marines up there. That was an agreement that he made with Churchill. He couldn't send troops over to Europe because we weren't at war yet. You know, so that's what President Roosevelt did. He sent the Marines. So that's why the Marines were up there 41 and 42. 41, and then they come out there at 42. But what happened with the Brits being up there, they had some terrible times with the Icelandics. The Icelandics did not like the Brits at all, and the Brits could care less, and there was harsh feelings up there. So when they left there, okay, the Icelandic people said, when you leave here, you leave everything that you built here, you leave it there, we'll take it over. Brit says that's not going to happen. So there was a seesaw battle going on about equipment going up there. What had happened was, the story was told to me, there were several buildings off the shoreline that the Brits had sitting there, and they couldn't take the whole building, so they had a frigate come out there and shell it. The way the story goes, because the Brits didn't want to give up any of the property up there. So now the deal was with the Icelandic government was, if any of the buildings were left undone or were occupied or stock, they would come down and they would paint the letter G-O-I, God. Iceland, G-O-A-I, that's what it was. So anyway, that was the deal. So the Icelandic police department had the main gate, and when Colonel Ross, we first got there, and we were going to man the main gates, the colonel says, "Well, Marines are always armed." And when they made all Icelanders, no guns. You can't be putting guns. And Colonel Ross and Admiral Moore at the time was the admiral in charge, famous Admiral Moore. Anyway, Admiral Moore, Colonel Ross says they had a little bit of problems, so they were talking to the Icelandic government. It says, we don't allow guns and stuff, on the main gate. And they said, well, Marines are always armed. That's traditionally, And Ross says, Colonel Ross says, I'll put my Marines back on board the aircraft and I'll take them out of here.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, we can't do that. So they had an agreement. So we wound up being armed on the gate. We won the argument there. But from there on in, that was the hint how it was going to work out with the Icelandic government and how it was. They were very harsh. I'm going to give you an example right there, because their police weren't armed. And their policemen are over 6'2", 3, and 4 big. They're huge. They're like abnormal big, some of them. But anyway, they would share the duties with a Marine on the gate. But when somebody comes in the gate, the Icelandic would check it out, and the Marine would check it out. Icelandic would check it out. Now, going out the gate, people would go to the commissary buy stuff. Mm-hmm. There were certain things that they wouldn't allow to go out, because if you lived off the base in Iceland and you were married to live off the base, the Icelandic government says you just as good well buy from us than take the commissary. Oh, so yeah. It would not allow us to take any of the commissary stuff, which was privileged on the base. So that became an issue up there, and became part of the problem up there in the Icelandic government. But other than that, then I got to be relieved. Now I was being relieved. Now this is a story in itself. It's another true story. I'm not making this up, folks. I'm getting relieved. I already got my 12-month or 13 months in Iceland. I'm getting orders going back, and my relief is in. Got this gunnery sergeant. I'm trying to think of his name right now. I had his name on my lips. I'm not going to mention his name. He's my relief, and he's a talker, and he's going to do this and do that up there. Well, the first inkling we got about him was he wanted to go see the different posts. Now, we had a place up in Aquary up there. It was a farm up there. We have a master sergeant up there, and it's just him and his wife up there living up there, and he's up there in the in other words, the caretaker for that part of the base, because that's part of the base up there. So he goes up there. Up there, we have ponds up there where they have these ducks. You know the feathers you get, some of these sleeping bags you get, they're right. Yep. Well, this is where they raised them at. And I'm trying to think of the sergeant's name, but anyway, this gunnery sergeant, he's going to man relief. He's up there, and he carries a 45 with him everywhere he goes. Nobody says anything, so he's up there. He's up there, and he sees the ducks in the pond. No. He starts to shoot the ducks. And we're up there, there's some madman up there shooting ducks. We said, we're talking about shooting ducks. The gunny is boom, 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 shooting ducks.
I thought he was at an arcade or something.
So anyway, you got him back there. You can't have any guns. You can't do that. You can't shoot that up there. But the thing is, they reprimand them, tell them you can't do it, everything else. But nobody takes the 45 away from them. Now that was strange in itself. So anyway, he's coming to my date to getting ready to leave out there. He is the brig ward now. So my Marines also are brig chasers, so when they have working parties going out, and they're bringing the prisoners out. So they go over by the airport, and there's a Quonset up there, and they're bringing this prisoner to do some work, but the prisoner has to go to the restroom. This is a remarkable story, folks, and we're going to believe this thing. The gunny up there sees the prisoner going in there and sees the guard. For some reason, he goes up and he sees the guard, see if he's doing his duty, doing it right so far. Then he goes like this to the guard. And he goes up behind, and of course, what is the prisoner doing but urinating, And he goes out and pulls out the 45 and puts it up like this right above his head and fires 2 shots. Boom, boom, boom. And here's what happened. He had a zipper. Up went the zipper. This guy almost, and it wasn't serious, he almost bled to death. Yep, with the zipper. I mean, that's how quick he pulled out the blood. And broke his ankle because he jumped up and put his foot in the goddamn toilet bowl, and his ankle broke in there. There's an office up topside. Icelandic women are up there doing office work over there. He actually put those 2 rounds on a typewriter and picked the typewriter and threw it over to the side. And all I kept saying when they come back and told me this is, they're not going to relieve me. I'm going to get stuck here in Iceland. They're going to take this guy back in a straitjacket and says, you're saying for another 13 months. That's all I kept thinking. Looking at it, if it happened, I got out of Iceland, I could care less. I don't know whatever happened to this maniac. They kept him or put him in a straitjacket. Probably they had to take the 45 away from him.
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
I hope so, for everybody's sake.
Then after Iceland, I came back to the 2nd Marines. And I was with the 8th Marines, and then I did Operation Steel Pike in Spain. It was the biggest landing we had up there. I was a company gunnery sergeant now for AT. They transferred me to OET. I was over the ATs, anti-tank organization. That's when we had the Ontos. Remember the Ontos? Nobody remembers the Ontos. They were the biggest things we had in the Marine Corps. They were miniature tanks, but they were. They carried 106 recoilless rifles on them, 6 of them, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. And they were supposed to use it, they probably could have used it for desert warfare, But I was a gunnery sergeant for AT outfit. And,
so it was like one guy inside there, or?
With crew of 2, I think 2 or 3, 2, yeah, loader and up there. And we had it the night that we were overrun at Tyndall Hill in Vietnam. We had an Ontos up there, and then the sergeant was up there. It's another story. The sergeant up there, when we got overrun that night, the VC got on top of the Ontos, and they were trying to dismantle the recoilless rifles off it. That's what they wanted, the recoilless rifles up there. and they shot him and his partner up. He had already opened up the doors up to, to get air in there. He was shot, and for what he did now, he managed to get into this Ontos and close. These doors are heavy, but he managed to close both doors, lock himself in there. The VC, 4 or 5 of them on top of them trying to dismantle the gun. He goes in there, turns on all the keys. They're loaded. And he fires all 6 at one time. That was the biggest blast I've seen. I was only yards away from this thing went off. There was a tree that was back there that disappeared. We fired on all the VC out. I'm almost sure the shockwave itself killed them.
What year did you get over in Nam? You went from Iceland, Iceland. You came back right for a while. Then you went to Nam, right?
Yeah, I went to Quantico.
Okay.
Then
what year did you go to Nam with your?
19.
That's where this picture is, right? Mm-hmm. This looks like something from a movie. Look at that guy, huh? You could have easily Robert Mitchum or one of those movie stars. You could have been one of the guys. I look at this photo. It looks like you got 2 watches. I'm thinking one's got to be a compass, right?
Yep.
And the other's a watch.
The other's a watch.
All right. So
One's this way.
I noticed that.
I always want to know which direction we're going.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a story that goes with that picture also. That picture came from the movies they made over there. They're getting ahead of ourselves. I got to Nam. I was in Quantico. I was an instructor up there. I was a gunnery sergeant for the PLC and the OC program. And I got my orders for Nam in 1966. And I guess I got my orders in May or June, just about right now, and went over there. Now, listen to what I'm going to say about me leaving here. I decided to come to Orlando, bring the family to Orlando. We'd never been to Florida before, 1966. And how I got to Orlando was when I was getting ready to leave and go and get my pay up there, the corporal was doing my pay, and he says, "Oh, you're leaving?" He says, "Where are you going?" I says, "Well, I'm going to Florida." He said, "Oh, you're from Florida?" I says, "No, never been to Florida." He says, "Part of Florida." I says, "Well, I'm going to Homestead. It's a base down there." So why to go to Homestead? And he's typing away up there, and he says, "Well, what other base?" It says, "Oh, go to Orlando. There's an Air Force base there." I said, "There is?" "Yeah, there's an Air Force base up there." And what's Orlando like? He says, "Well, it's a great place. I grew up in high school and everything else." So this young corporal was telling me this story. And I says, "Okay." I went back and told my first sergeant because he's getting ready to retire. And he tells my other first sergeant, they both ride down to Orlando. And they get the newspaper, and they found out Orlando's a great place. So when I decided to leave, I told my wife, Joan, I said, "Let's go to Orlando. Let's go to Orlando." Now, Disney World wasn't here. There was a church on every corner in Orlando. Not gas stations, church in every corner. A very religious place. So here we come down to Orlando. They're all over there by the Air Force Base, but now the Air Force Base is going to convert it to be a Navy base. Okay? But anyway, I settled down here, moved over to, over in Orlando, over to, trying to remember the street name, Edgewater over there. Not Edgewater, but up there by 50. And I left the family there. So my 30 days is up, left the family, I've got the kids into school now, because by that time now I had 3 kids. I had the 2 boys and a girl. And I got them into the school, got them into the Catholic school. And we're getting ready to leave. And I remember going to the airport, and of course, at that time you walked out to the runway out there, get on the aircraft, There was no jets, it was all props that time. Okay, I left Orlando, and I wound up in California day 1, and I reported in, and apparently I reported into the place that was a receiver, and I was the only one there. And he says, "First, Gunny, we don't know what you're going to have to be doing, but you're going to have to go with this outfit over here, and we're just going to have to wait. We don't know we have a flight for you. So he says, you know, just stand by. We'll see if we have a flight. You might be here 2, 3 days, 4 days. We don't know. It all depends. Okay. Well, that was the only one day because they had a flight. Took me over to the base, over to Travis. And there I met a whole bunch of Army personnel. We're all going to Nam, okay? So flight was late at night. We flew out of there, landed in Hawaii, refueled in Hawaii, and I landed in Da Nang. I was assigned now going to the 7th Marines. Went up to the 7th Marines, and then I was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 3-7. Went to 3-7, and I was assigned to my company. Now this is all in the process of 1 and 2 days. 1, 2, 3 days. 4th day, I get into to the battalion, 3rd Battalion, and I'm assigned as the company gunnery sergeant for my company, which is out on a mission, and they'll be back that evening. And I met then young Captain Droughty, who later became a general. Young captain who just made captain, he was the company commander. And he says, Gunny, it's good to have you aboard. You know, we had a good gunny and everything else. He says, but we got to go out again tomorrow for another checkout out there. He says, why don't you stay behind and get your stuff out? No. I like to go out and check out with the company. This is day 5. We go out, and I'm in a Jeep, in the tail end of the trucks. The 2 trucks are lined up with the company in the 2 trucks. And captain is up there with the Jeep. He stops, and the National Police are up there. They're on the road. They're talking to the captain. And we're sitting there talking. They're on the main highway now, on Highway 1. There's people all over the place. You wouldn't believe it, but the goddamn VC opened up on us. It was an ambush. Broad daylight. Unbelievable. Well, let me tell you something. I ain't never seen nothing like it. Now, all these kids, these men, they were actually from the 3rd Division. They're all trained in Okinawa. All Okinawan trained. I never seen swift fire team maneuvers like I seen. I was so proud of them. Come off that truck and you could hear the commands. They were moving swift, and they kept moving towards where the fire was going.
Yeah.
I guess the VC thought they were maniacs because they kept moving their guns and they kept moving back up that hill. There was rounds going all over the place, machine gun fire. My Marines were moving forward. We got into the place called Tindau, and there was a village, and there's people in the village. Obviously, they were feared for their life because now the shooting was going on, going up in this village. And there's a little hill behind us. It's Hill 10. So they're approaching it, and the Marines kept going up there. Finally, we got to the hill. We got to the top of the hill, and I wound up with my radio operator's rifle. And I decided to use my M14 rifle to get in the fray. Well, to make a long story short, I got shot in the head.
You're shot in the head?
I got shot in the head.
Ooh.
Bang! Knocked the crap out of me. Anyway, I'm wounded. In fact, that's where you could see part of where the helmet went through the side of the helmet up there. It was pulled away. The strap is covering most of it. But it went through, the bullet came through this job. It picked me up and slammed me back, you know, and it opened the side of my head over here where I bled profusely. I didn't know if my brains were sticking out or what. But I was knocked unconscious, and then I woke up, and it was Sergeant Major from some outfit up there behind me at the time, because I was doing the shooting from where my position I was at, and he dragged me back. And I remember him dragging me back. As he was dragging me, my flak jacket opened up, and I could feel all the dirt going up my flak. And he kept yelling, "You stupid, you got shot, you got shot, you got shot," you know. Well, okay. Well, to make a long story short, I got hit. I was all right. But Captain Droughty, being such a gracious man that he is an academy, Annapolis Academy graduate. And, you know, I'm wounded, you know, and everything else, but I'm still on the field. And he says, Gunny, he says, I want you to go back to see the battalion up there. They have what they call MARS. Now Mars is an outfit of civilians that have this phones and they hook up phones. He says, go back and come because they're gonna list you as being wounded and they're gonna send that back to your family. So I got back there. I got back down to Mars. They got me in there. They patched me through, and I called and I talked to my wife. I said, Joan, it's me. He says, where you call from? I'm in Nam. He says, oh, he says, you can call. I says, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to tell you something before we'll lose it. You know, I had to go over, you know. So you had to do that over.
Radio Free
He says,
Europe and all that.
what happened was I got wounded a little bit. A little bit. What's a little bit? I got wounded a little bit. And they might send a telegram. So I said, but I'm all right, okay? I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right. Nothing wrong with me, but it's, I got wounded a little bit, you know. So, you know, I got that clear. But the letter she sent later on told me, when they sent that telegram, my aunt and uncle, mother and father showed up at the house. They were there. They didn't know I was, you know, wounded. All of a sudden comes the knock, and of course there's a sergeant major from there and the chaplain and all of them. He says, my wife says, it was nothing but hysteria from your aunt. She went nuts. He's boomed, he's crazy, you know, all kinds of things. So that was an experience in itself. Yes, it was 5 days in Nam and I already was wounded. And then right after
Waste
that,
any time.
and then kept getting wounded again.
How many times you get wounded?
3 times.
3 times?
Once in Korea.
Well, that's right, because you got the 3 stars on the Purple Heart. And this picture you said, this is what was taken in Vietnam, right?
Yeah, that was taken by Gene Jones, who made movies of my company. I mentioned the fact on July 15th, 1966, my company being on top of this hill that I mentioned, was attacking a battalion of irregulars, BCs, that attacked this battalion size in the morning. I had the last watch. We rotated between the captain and the senior corpsman and myself, watch up there. Captain Dodd, I remember telling me that night, he says, because we've been up there now 15, the boots haven't been taken off in 15 days. So we just now set up the company commander's tent, and me and the company commander was staying together, and I had a rack down there. He says, at 3 a.m., if nothing's going on, come on down, get some shut-eye. At 3 a.m., I looked down, and the line was cleared, everything else. I got down to the bunk. I got down to the side of the hill. I sat on the edge of the bunk. I hadn't had my boots off in 15 days. Unlaced those boots and dropped them off. And no sooner I dropped my last boot off, the loudest explosion you heard in rapid fire. Wham, 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 wham. Just mortars just cracking the side of the hill and going up there. And of course, gunfire. So next thing you know, I'm seeing traces coming over our head. And they're coming right for the tent, because now we're on a slope. So they started to spray the tent. And then what I did was, Drowdy was sound asleep. I kind of pitched over, and I kind of grabbed him by his side, and I threw him on the ground, and me alongside of him. He woke up a dead sleep, and me throwing him on the side over there. And when he started to hear the explosion, gunfire, and I says, we're being hit, Skipper. He says, Gunny, he says, we got to get to the hill. So there we go. We get to the top of the hill up there, and I get up there. And I tell him, Gunny, he tells me, Gunny, he says, stay here at the ammo point. This will be the rally point. I want you to right here bring in the wounded, ish out any ammunition that could be out there. You know, I'm going to move up, and I'm going to be up there where the 3rd platoon is up, because this is where most of the fire is coming from. And he takes off, and we had a specialized unit that had their radio set up over there. Next thing I know, there was 3 successive explosions, big flashes. I thought maybe the company commander got killed or something, you know. But anyway, he survived that. These 2 young Marines standing there, I knew they got killed, but Apparently they didn't harm them. They were still there. I said, you guys, I said, you're all right? Yeah, Gunny, yeah, he said, stay down, stay down, stay down. You know? So anyway, they got hit. Well, anyway, at that time, 1966, McVeigh had not seen any fighting that was really serious up to that point. McVeigh being, you know, the organization itself being there. So McVeigh thought this was really strange. At the same time this was going on, a movie producer named Gene Jones, who was a combat photographer on Iwo Jima, him and his brother, he made his name famous in Life magazine doing 1946 or 47, being on the cover over there when they had the trials over in Hungary. He was one. Him and his brother, twin brother, were the ones that ran up there, and they got the communists locked them up. They had to get President Truman and get him out of jail. But anyway, he was in country, and he was going to do a special thing with the Marines, and instead of doing the composure of a movies of different units, he wanted to narrow it down to one squad. So we want to know where the most action was. My company 3-7, up comes Gene Jones. That's how I met Gene Jones, and I've been friends with Gene Jones ever since. Now passed away at 95 up there. But he's left a legacy. He took this picture of me before he left. Now the picture of me before he left, we were on assignment. And we were going to go up to a place we were unfamiliar with. We were going to fly up there. And he and his crew were leaving. So when they left there, and the picture shows me carrying a grenade on the side. Well, we went to this area up there where we got into one hell of a firefight. And anyway, a lot of shooting going on there, to make a long story short. We got to base camp. One of my platoon sergeants came up to me and says, Gunny, he says, look at your grenade. The grenade I'm carrying right there had a big gouge in it where a bullet had gone and carved out the side of it. Another half inch, it probably would have detonated me along with it.
You had a guardian angel, my friend.
Well, when that ambush was there, I must have been the center, because when I was standing up next to this little tree over there, you know, a bullet will leave a heat signature. Yes, it will. Because the heat of the bullet passed me right under here, and I could feel the heat. It's like somebody passed a hot iron across me.
You're amazing.
And that was Nam, and then I come back.
But that picture was taken by the guy, and there's a documentary.
Yeah, Gene Jones, yeah.
Yes, and what's it called? Because we're going to put a link out there.
Yeah, Face of War.
The Face of War. And we want our people to go check it out on YouTube, and we'll probably put a little something in here
Yeah.
so you can see it. And it's amazing. I tell you, I watched that documentary, and it is real life. It's not Hollywood.
No, it's a real
life.
thing, yeah.
And you went through a whole bunch of stuff there, and I thank you for your service, my friend. You know, you are truly an amazing man, Tony.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, but, so after Nam, you, what did you do? How long were you after that?
Well, they came back and they went to Paris Island. Went to Paris Island, and on Paris Island I made Master Sergeant, and I took over DI school. I was DI school, and then went back to regiment and first sergeant there, and then I got orders to go back to Nam. Went back to Nam and went to FLSG, Fourth Logistics Group in Nam, and then I came back to state retired.
For 2 tours.
Yeah.
You're an amazing man, my friend.
Retired in actually, this will be, this July will be 52 or 52 years. I've been retired.
You still look great.
Yeah,
You're looking great.
I contribute to my son. He keeps me healthy.
Good.
He's my caretaker, my son. He feeds me, he cooks for me, and everything else.
You got out of the Marines. Did you get another job? Or you just...
Well, yeah, I did. I got another job. I worked at the Public Works for a while, and then when I went to the police academy, I met some interesting guys like Sheriff Berry and all those guys. You know, that whole group there, Dave Barber, all that from the Winter Park PD.
So you were in law enforcement.
And what happened was I wound up because I did a lot of marksmanship shooting in the Marine Corps. I wound up being the range officer for the police academy, and I was there for almost about 21 years. That's for when they go to the police academy, they have a two-week course going to the range, and I ran the range. I ran the program for the range for the police academy, Seminole County. So that was my job. So I left there, and here I am now. Just been one
Central Florida salute you too.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And we want the people to check out that documentary. Like I said, it's not for the faint at heart. It's the Faces of War, right? Mm-hmm. And you can find it on YouTube. And I just want to thank you for coming here, Tony. I mean, I met you a while ago. I really kind of lost contact thanks to George Wanberg. He got you here, and I'm glad we could film this because you are history, my man.
I don't know if I'm history or not. Anyway,
yeah, you are.
Some force of nature brought me through all this stuff.
Thank you for your service. We're going to say goodbye. I think you know how to do this with the salute at the end.
Yep.
Okay, you ready?
Ready?
All right. To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.
And the right hand doesn't work.
Yeah, that's all right. Hi, I'm Bob Peters, host of Salute on Central Florida Salute YouTube, and I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Gary Cato. Good to see you again, Father Cato.
Good to see you.
And I want you to give me an update as to what Project SOS is up to nowadays.
Oh, golly, we've been pretty busy. We have over 2,000 military families now and others that we're working with that are living at or below the poverty level. And we're supplying food, clothing, a lot of infant and baby products. We have over 350 children now that are under the age of 5 that we're caring for. So diapers and pull-ups and all the things we haven't had to deal with in years are all in great supply. But we're staying ahead of it. We're helping folks out. We're making a change. Probably giving out close to 15,000 to 2,000, 20,000 pounds every single month of food. So it's kept us pretty busy.
You know, I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud to call you my friend. And people want to know more about it. Where do they go? Project SOS?
They can go to Project SOS at www.projectsosusa.org.
And they make a difference, folks.
We try. Thanks to you. Yeah, basically what we need right now, we're looking for donations. We are getting food supplied from manufacturers, quite a few, but we're not getting high protein products coming in, meats and things like that they need to keep a diet and keep them healthy. So we're looking to get donations we can purchase that doesn't get donated. And also the continuous flow of baby products, the diapers, the baby creams, the wipes, things like that. We have a lot of young ladies out there, a lot of women veterans that are in need. But anyway, anything for infants we need. New clothing, we don't take used clothing anymore. We're not allowed to do that because of COVID. But any new clothing, particularly for children 5 and under, we always need that. We still have people living in their cars. That's their home now. They've lost their income, they've lost their housing and living in their vehicles. Those that have them, others are back on the ground again or living in tents. So it doesn't change. There's always a need, even though COVID's going away. And those are the kind of things that we have to get a hold of to keep things going. The second area, scholarships. We have had scholarships going now for just about 7 years. The other night we had our scholarship contract signing for young people, and we brought 10 new kids into the college program. We provide 2 years of college for free to a military child who's living at or below the poverty level. If they achieve a 3.0 at the end of 2 years, they get 2 more years to get their bachelor's degree. And that's been going wonderful. In fact, we even had 3 memorials this year honoring veterans who had passed away, and they had been sponsored for scholarships, so their legacy will go on forever through these children. And it's been a great program. I don't think there was a dry eye in the house the other night when we had the awards, and Bob was part of that, and thank you for that, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you. But, you know, a good friend of mine was one of those
Yes.
who were the sponsors. And
Richard Dardia.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah.
And the family was super excited about it.
That's good. I'm glad.
You did a great job, my friend.
I'm glad.
You
Yeah.
and Take Stock in Children.
Take Stock in Children has been wonderful. They have been probably the best people we've worked with in a long, long time. They're professionals at the scholarship programs and just do a terrific job with our kids. We have 81 in college now. We have not lost one. And I'm very proud to say this year, all of the GPAs put together equaled 3.84, which is amazing. These are brilliant kids. All they need is a chance. So, if somebody wants to mail in, which is a preferable way of doing it, because we have to pay a fee when it goes to their website, they can just mail it to Project SOS, 2412 Due West Drive. That's spelled D-U-E-W-E-S-T Drive. The Villages, Florida, 32162.
Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Bobby.